Welcome to the Unspoken Files, where every story is darker than the last. If you crave horror, mysteries, and the unexplained, you just stepped into the unknown. Some stories keep you up at night, so make you question reality. But the ones we tell here, they stay with you long after the video ends. From haunted objects to eerie disappearances, from true encounters to the most chilling urban legends, we dive deep into the terrifying and the unexplainable. Are you ready to hear the stories that were never meant to be told? Then subscribe if you dare. In November 2011, Latoya Ammons, her mother Rosa Campbell, and her 3 children moved into a modest rental house on Carolina Street in Gary, Indiana. The home was supposed to be a fresh start, a place where they could settle in and build a new life. But within days of moving in, something deeply disturbing began to take place. It started with small, unexplainable occurrences. Strange wet footprints appeared on the floor, despite no one having walked through water. Swarms of black flies invaded the porch in the middle of winter, dying just as quickly as they arrived. No matter how often the family cleaned, the flies would return, as if drawn to something unseen. At night, doors creaked open on their own, and the sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the house. But there was never anyone there. The family would wake up to muffled whispers coming from the dark corners of their home. Latoya and Rosa dismissed it at first, telling themselves it was the creaks and groans of an old house settling. But soon, the strange occurrences escalated into something much worse. The basement was always the coldest part of the house, even when the furnace was on full blast. It had a small, dirt-covered room beneath the stairs, an eerie space that no one in the family liked to enter. Rosa swore she could feel something watching them when they stood near it. Latoya's youngest son, just 7 years old, began talking to someone no one else could see. He said he had an imaginary friend who lived in the basement, but when asked to describe him, the boy simply said, "It's big, and it talks to me." One night, Rosa awoke to a deep growling sound coming from downstairs. It wasn't the sound of an animal. It was something unnatural, something angry. When she finally mustered the courage to investigate, she found the basement door hanging wide open. She was certain she had locked it before going to bed. The next morning, Rosa sprinkled holy water throughout the house, hoping to banish whatever presence lurked inside. For a while, things seemed to calm down, but the worst was yet to come. Over the next few weeks, Latoya's children changed. They grew lethargic, unresponsive, and at times, violently ill. They complained of dark figures standing in their rooms at night, whispering to them, telling them to do things. One evening, Latoya's 12-year-old daughter began levitating above her bed. Rosa, horrified, ran into the room and saw the girl's body suspended in midair. It lasted for only a few seconds before she crashed onto the mattress, gasping for breath. Then came the voices. Latoya's youngest son would sit on the couch, his eyes rolling back into his head, muttering in guttural tones that were not his own. His words were in a language no one recognized. The other children would wake up with scratches and bruises on their bodies, even though their bedroom doors had been locked. One day, Rosa witnessed something that made her question her own sanity. She found her grandson crawling backward up the wall, his body contorted in an impossible way. His eyes were empty, his mouth twisted into a terrifying grin. Then, as suddenly as it had started, he collapsed onto the floor and began to cry. That was the breaking point. The family fled the house and sought help from their local church. Desperate, Latoya and Rosa met with their family physician, Dr. Jeffrey Onyekwo. But when he visited their home, he was shocked by what he saw. He described the children as being delusional and possessed, something he had never seen in his entire career. Child Protective Services, CPS, was called in, and during one visit, a caseworker saw one of the boys thrown across the room by an invisible force. That was when Father Michael Maginot, a priest from the local Catholic Church, got involved. After interviewing the family and witnessing unexplained phenomena firsthand, he concluded that this was not a case of mental illness. This was demonic possession. With permission from the Bishop of the Diocese of Gary, Father Maginot performed a series of exorcisms on both Latoya and her children. The first was in English, but the effects were temporary. The second, performed in Latin, caused violent reactions. Latoya convulsed, screamed, and spoke in a voice that wasn't hers. The house itself seemed to react, with furniture shaking and lights flickering uncontrollably. During the final exorcism, Father Maginot commanded the entity to leave. A deafening silence filled the air. Then, all at once, the oppressive presence lifted. The house felt lighter. The children stopped having episodes. It was over, or so they thought. Unable to shake the trauma, Latoya and her family moved out of the house permanently. The property was later investigated by police and paranormal researchers, all of whom reported strange occurrences. Years later, the house was purchased and demolished by Zak Bagans, a paranormal investigator who later featured the case in his documentary Demon House. Latoya and her children refused to ever speak of it again. And to this day, no one truly knows what lurked inside that house on Carolina Street, or if it's still out there, waiting. You made it to the end, but are you sure you're alone? If you enjoy stories that keep you up at night, make sure to subscribe to the Unspoken Files, because the next story might just be about you. Subscribe to the Unspoken Files now, before it's too late.